Hi, my name is Jeffro, and this is Digital Dominance, the podcast for service-based small business owners who are ready to seize the recognition and growth that their company deserves. You've worked hard to build a business you're proud of. Now it's time for Digital Domination. Welcome back to Digital Dominance. Today, I'm joined by Hikari Senju, the founder of Omneky. Hikari and his team are reimagining digital advertising by using AI to generate highly personalized, data-driven ads at scale. Now, their platform helps marketers and business owners optimize their ad performance with real-time consumer insights, which I'm excited to find out more about today. So in this episode, we're going to dive into how generative AI is reshaping the future of advertising and how businesses can take advantage of these advances to stay ahead. So welcome to the show, Hikari.
Thanks, Jeffro, for having me. I'm really excited to be chatting with you.
Yeah, definitely. Now, there's clearly a demand for personalized ads. We've seen that. But could you give us some insights as to why that is? Do personalized ads really perform that much better?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about like the progression of advertising, we used to live in the world of mass media, 1950s, everybody was watching the same television show. I think 80% of Americans, viewed most of the episodes of I Love Lucy. And so when you're living in the same media environment, then, these mass ads work because everyone has the same cultural context. But as media has become increasingly fragmented over time, in the 90s, you had these cable networks that spoke to distinct interests, like Fox News, and then you have CNN, and then you now have social media that even hyper, personalizes the news feed based on an end of one. Everyone's living in their own media bubble, in their own kind of distinct media diet, and that means that there's a lot more work for the advertiser to connect with that end consumer in a personalized way. So the end consumer of that content feels like they're being spoken to and not just spoken at.
Well, but what's the difference? Because I know we're starting to see a lot of this, and sometimes it's easy to spot the fake personalized ads where it's like, hello, friend, or hello, Jeff, and it's like kind of disjointed or like a different font or something. And it seems like it wasn't a natural, actual human interaction. Is that an issue?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember actually one of my friends' advisors, a company called Teespring, they created a custom audience of people just named Jeffrey, for example. And then they ran, maybe a couple thousand people. And then they just said, hey, Jeffrey, buy this thing. And then they got banned, or they got dinged by Facebook for this. And so I think when it's done poorly, then, or done in a very awkward way, then that doesn't benefit anyone. It doesn't benefit the end consumer. It doesn't benefit the platform. It doesn't benefit the brand. It just feels creepy. And so really, this is where you use data to really find the fine line between what's actually driving higher performance in terms of actual sales versus what's just, sounds like a good idea, but maybe, not actually, if not very effective, especially if it's not executed properly.
Got it. So how does Omneky use generative AI to kind of create these personal ads that actually resonate with a specific audience as opposed to like what we talked about, where it feeling forced?
Yeah, well, today it's really hard for a marketing team to create personalized ads. We still kind of live in the world where, design teams are creating this content, the marketing teams run it, but they don't have a whole ton of variation in terms of the content that they're running, even the biggest companies. And yet the marketer is 55% of their success, of them hitting their goals, is based on the creative, the ad that's running. If you run a good ad, you're going to see an increase in sales. If you run not a good ad, you're not going to see an increase in sales. And so it's one of these really hard problems. And so partly because it's hard to just get an understanding of what type of ads you're going to run for specific audiences, but then it's also hard to create all that content as well and do it well. So the way our tool works is it makes that easy. So customers can, they upload their brand information, they integrate their ad networks, ad platforms. We get all the real-time data regarding the performance of the various channels. Customers input the target audience that they're looking to sell to, and then we'll generate thousands of variations of ads and ideas that customers can then approve and launch through our platform. And so we make personalized ads really easy in an omni-channel way.
So do you have your own ad network, or are you running on top of like Facebook ads and Google ads?
Yeah, so we're an omni-channel platform. So we're integrated with all the various social platforms, but there's also big streaming platforms as well for television ads. So, think of the Disney Pluses and the Netflixes. And then there's gaming platforms, there's certain kinds of out-of-home networks. And so really, when it comes to like OmniChannel, like the advertiser today has many options when it comes to buying media and target and kind of being in front of the customer, in front of their customer. And so we make all that available to them.
So, but at the same time, aren't you still limited by the capabilities of these different ad platforms? Because I imagine some may give you more flexibility than others in terms of serving a specific ad to a specific person.
Yeah, so the targeting options are definitely varied across the different platforms, and the data you get is also very varied across the different platforms. But what isn't different is that you still need to create good content. Every single one of these platforms, you need to upload a creative to run. And in fact, you really shouldn't be delegating that to the platform, because you want to orchestrate this seamless customer experience where a customer is getting kind of a unified brand experience, kind of surround sound. So when they see the ad on, say, Instagram, it's consistent with the ad they're seeing on YouTube or Twitch or on Pinterest. And so that orchestration isn't going to happen if you just delegate it to Meta generate the ads for me or Google generate the ads for me. You're going to just get different customer experience. And so orchestrating that is really where we come in terms of running these omnichannel campaigns.
So how specific can you get? Because obviously, if you're identifying the same person on different platforms, and that's one thing, and you're giving them an ad maybe based on what buyer stage you think they're in. Are we close to the point where you could start inserting a name into that for that person, or is it not quite there?
Yeah, so the stage that we're broadly in is, I would say, more audience targeting. So there is an element where you can't target an individual on, say, Meta. You can target like an audience, like a lookalike group or an interest group or a certain demographic, and you can overlap these to create your own custom audience. But you can do that kind of targeting across different platforms. So you can target, say, a similar zip code, or the same zip code in a similar kind of broad array of demographic information regarding target audience across these various platforms. And that's honestly usually actually sometimes superior in terms of instead of just targeting one person, because there's a lot more data when you kind of cluster these the consumers in similar groups, right? So I might not have enough information, Jeffro, about you as an individual, but if I cluster you with other people in the same zip code, with a similar education, with similar kinds of work experience and similar kinds of hobbies, then I may be able to get an insight from somebody else, and then be able to kind of just assume that maybe those things may apply to you. So that audience-based targeting on an omnichannel basis is really where we're at, I think, today when it comes to state of art. But who knows? Maybe at some point, you can target just one person across all different platforms. That's really up to regulation and things like this.
Well, I imagine this kind of makes it harder to accurately measure the ROI of certain campaigns and things, because we've got traditional split testing, A or B, this one does better, done, right? But like you said, if we're grouping people into these audiences, you're kind of assuming that you got that right, that they're in the right group in the first place, and then maybe you can test something within there. But how do you really know what's working or not working?
Well, we get the data from the performance of the ad. So for every ad creative, we then see, we targeted this audience, how many clicks they were, how many sales it drove, how much revenue it potentially drove, the return on ad spend of that advertising creative. We see that information on a per creative basis. And so we can see if an ad is being effective. So is this ad performing, has a higher return on ad spend or a worse return on ad spend compared to other creative? And then you can optimize that way. So, we're, say, running a campaign targeting a certain audience, or running thousands of variations of creative across all different platforms. We see which channels performing the highest, delivering the highest return on ad spend. We see which channels aren't delivering the highest return on ad spend. We see which creative is driving the highest return on ad spend. We see which creatives aren't. And then from there, we can optimize against that audience.
Yeah, and I imagine this is where the deep learning comes in, right? Because with these huge data sets, you need some filter to kind of pull out all this data and make sense of it.
Yeah, so there's deep learning and Gen AI throughout the entire stack. And really, the strategy from day one for us has been kind of automating, creating this workflow and then automating and kind of bringing each part of the workflow to state of art as technology has advanced. So first, to your point, getting the good insights, getting data in from all the different platforms in real time, making that system as robust as possible, so we're getting the freshest data in a robust way, extracting insights from each creative. So we initially start with computer vision, but then now using multimodal AI to kind of explain the image in various dimensions, and then building predictive models against those insights. Say, okay, so this target audience will more likely resonate with this kind of messaging or this kind of imagery, or we should try these other ideas because it's been shown to, it's just this predictive model has shown that it might work. To then, using deep learning to then actually generate the content, fine tuning the model on the customer's brand, fine tuning the image generation models on the customer's product photos, assembling the various assets together in a design and style that is, works for that platform that we're running the ad on, and it also works for the kind of aesthetic that the customer may like. That's done through fine tuning. That's done through retrieval, augmented generation to find ads and designs that are similar to ads that performed well in the past, and then launching the content, distributing the content across the various platforms. So that every part of that stack is its own distinct problem with its own kind of AI that's integrated into it. And then the end vision for us is really trying to automate that entire flow as much as possible.
Got it. So yeah, eventually you'll be able to click a couple buttons and then sit back and watch everything work magically. That's the dream, right? So
make advertising as easy as clicking approve is what we say.
Yeah, I mean everyone would love that, right? Because right now it is a huge process. Like you got to stay on top of it and analyze and optimize and tweak and test, and there's so much that goes into it, as you know. But
people might not be really the best at it either, right? Like some people might be really good at it, but the average person who also has to juggle many other jobs, maybe you're the CEO of a company, maybe you're the marketer, you're doing other things, marketing, to also have to do that you might not be the best person for that. So it actually may be better to actually have an AI do that on your behalf, and then the AI can do it 24/7. The AI works on weekends. We've had problems with campaigns in the past where the ads are running over the weekend and it's misspent money and no one's working. So those, you don't have those kinds of issues if it's AI powered.
Yeah, because it can, like you said, it can work while you sleep, so it's much faster and more efficient. But I wanted to ask you about real-time data. How does that factor into AI-driven ad creation? And currently, is this a manual process that you have to say, okay, I'm ready, create another new ad? Or does it just do it based on what it's seeing?
Yeah. So today there's a human in the loop. So the human has to approve the content before it's launched. So we get the data in real time. We're ingesting data constantly from all the various ad platforms for the customer. We're getting new insights for the customer all the time. But it's up to the customer to then approve the ads so that they're launched. So they're in the driver's seat there. That said, I think ultimately a full self-driving system is going to be better performing than a Copilot system because the full self-driving system can be more reactive, can optimize the ads on weekends, and maybe also be able to do things that a human might not be it might not make sense for a human to launch this kind of ad, but an AI, as long as kind of aligned with the brand, the AI might have some deeper, might have some unique insight as to why they're running that creative, and it might actually outperform. And so therefore, an agentic system probably ultimately will perform better. But for now, it's very much a Copilot tool.
So what about if you've already got a bunch of ads that are approved for different stages, and how reactive is this system across channels? So let's say if I'm over on Facebook, I see an ad, maybe I click on it, but I don't buy. A few minutes later, I go over to Instagram. Is it going to show me the next ad in the sequence or a retargeting ad, or am I going to see the same one?
Well, if you go from Facebook to Instagram, it will show you that sequence because it's the same ad platform. So you can definitely do that on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. Yeah, so definitely you can run that kind of ad there. I think the question is, can I run an ad on Facebook and then show the next sequence, for example, on YouTube or on, say, Amazon, Twitch, or LinkedIn, Microsoft? And so that's really where that coordination and orchestration key becomes tougher, and therefore an area that we can really help the customer in terms of the way they create their audiences, and at least making sure that the messaging isn't contradictory or weird or orthogonal to each other.
Got it. So as this gets better, what do you see as kind of the biggest opportunities for marketers in terms of creating these, campaigns that are driven by AI?
Well, I think brands are going to become more important than ever, right? Especially as the competition for attention becomes fiercer. Because now anybody can create a good movie and everybody will be able to create a good app because anybody, you can just generate code now and you can generate videos. And even already do that with images, and in the near-term future, it's going to apply for images, video, and apps, and code, and in whole entire experiences. And so that means the value of brand is going to be more important, because it's only going to get noisier for the consumer. Consumers are going to be inundated with good content, which means now which service do I trust? It's which service do I pay more attention to? It's going to be the bigger brand. And so managing that brand well, building that brand well, orchestrating that brand well. We say that Omneky is the control hub for your brand, with the generative experience management tool for your brand. So I would say in practical terms, it's really three things. One is getting your brand assets lined up and your brand guidelines and your brand rules really clear, so that you can fine-tune models on it very well and you can kind of scale it out very well. I would say having the analytics platform in place very well as well, so you can actually see how consumers are interacting with your generative experiences and optimizing based on those insights. You have visibility, and then really embracing these new workflow tools or these workflow agentic systems to better drive efficiencies and productivity and better performance in your marketing work.
So I'm assuming you guys also integrate with Google Analytics, like you mentioned, having that set up. Do you integrate with other tracking platforms too, like Woopra or any of the others that are out there?
Yeah, we integrate with, what we do is we work with the customer and we see what pixels and tracking systems they use, and then we integrate with those. We build integration with those. So Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager is a popular one. Meta Pixels is another. Every ad platform has its own tracking system for optimizing conversions. And so and then on top of that, we can integrate with customer CRM platforms, so we can get more of a longer tail view of that, and the return on ad spend, the lifetime value of a particular lead.
I mean, I know going forward, like there's more strict privacy laws and data regulation and things like that. Is that going to affect the ability of your platform to make these decisions and have that real-time data if a lot of that is getting restricted?
Well, I think we are living in a very restricted environment already, especially when it comes to content. So you have these very vague copyright laws today regarding AI generative content that makes it very difficult actually for marketing teams to fully embrace Gen AI because it's not clear who owns the copyright to, say, an AI generated images or an AI generative powered image or video. And so once there's more clarity there, that would actually, I think, increase adoption of this technology. I think we're still not seeing a whole ton of Gen AI content by, outside of kind of what you see trending on, say, social, occasionally on social media, is because of that ambiguity regarding say like copyright and these legal concerns, right? Like if you accidentally generate an image of say a famous character, who's liable for it? You run it, who's liable for it, right? So I think that clarity will actually 100x increase the adoption of this technology. And then separately, when it comes to data, I think that's always kind of a moving goalpost in terms of who owns the data and like data privacy, data concerns. And I think that's for regulation, but advertising is an industry as old as really civilization in some ways. And so businesses will always be seeking ways of connecting with customers and notifying customers of their products and services. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Because I know there's always, as stuff like this happens and you're going to get more AI-driven advertising, there's going to be ethical considerations that people have to keep in mind. Like now by collecting information from these different places, you're building a profile on a person, which maybe they didn't want you to know, right? Or maybe they only wanted this company to know about this and this one to know about that. And so now they're like, wait, hang on. And so any considerations like that you've seen or are thinking about?
I think what's going to end up happening is more of this personalization is going to be happening at the edge. So instead of like this kind of centralized data where all the data, all the kind of data is collected centrally, where a model processes, I think more likely, a lot of the personalization will be happening at the edge. So like on your device, the model will be deployed to where the data is instead of the data going to where the model is as these models become more powerful. And so that's another way privacy and security is maintained because, all the data isn't just being collected. Because if you're a hacker, it's there's nothing more enticing than, instead of, hacking all your edge devices, I'm just going to hack this one place where all your data is goes to.
It's a gold mine.
It's a gold mine, exactly. But, instead if the data is kind of dispersed across all the edge devices, and then the models are actually just being deployed at these edge devices and utilizing that data in a secure way to, say, personalize content or generate these personalized experiences, that's probably a more secure system as well. So, I think there's some technological ways that's been, technological ways some of these challenges are also being solved.
Got it. All right, well, let me pull it back. Can you share with us like a real world example of a business that have successfully used your platform to kind of improve and enhance their ad performance and reach using this, approach?
Yeah, so there's this company called Omnichannel, and they are a vegan beauty business. And the way when they signed up, they connected the brand assets, they connected the various ad platforms, and then ultimately, we used AI to get insights about what types of ads are performing well. So we realized, for example, the phrase "vegan" in the title of the ad drove click-through rates by 20% up. That you're talking and focusing on their ingredients and how their ingredients are cruelty-free is correlated with driving higher impressions. And really, again, also focusing on the health elements of the product drove high performance. And so this ultimately resulted in a 3.5 increase in return on investment for them and a 2x increase in year-over-year sales. Kevin, their CEO, said that the exceptional quality and scale of our digital assets have been instrumental in broadening our customer base and driving substantial sales growth, underscoring the strength of our partnership in the digital marketing sphere.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, just even identifying, what specific words in the title that are driving an increased click rate is super helpful, because that can save you a lot of money on your ad spend.
Yep.
Is there a certain level that a business should be at in terms of ad spend before this makes sense? Because if you're only spending a little bit, you might not have enough data to actually take advantage of this.
Right. So what is, so the average cost per impression average cost for say 1,000 impressions, right, is probably somewhere around $10. So to get to a statistical significant result, you actually don't need to spend a whole ton of money to run, like, say, a test that delivers some threshold of statistical significance. Generally, that said, though, I think the more data you have, the better insights you can deliver, the more tests you can run. And so for that, I would say it's around at least $10,000 or $5,000 a month in ad spend is where we come in historically. But that number is also going down further as we make our technology better.
Got it. Well, I mean, that's getting within reach for a lot of small businesses, especially small and medium, as they're growing. So that's good to know that that's there, because they can hop on, and as they grow, they get this ability to grow faster with the personalized ads and everything. But I think this is also a good time for us to wrap up. Thanks for joining me today, Hikari. It's always fascinating to hear from people who are on the ground actually working with AI instead of just some of these headlines that, are extreme one way or the other, because there are a lot of promising benefits. And I appreciate you kind of walking through so many of these details here. For those of you at home listening, check out Omneky if it sounds like a good fit for you and your business. And I've got one last question for you, Hikari. What prompted you to start Omneky?
Yeah, so I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur basically my entire career. I have a deep passion for helping entrepreneurs, and the mission was to democratize growth. And so I think a wealthier world is a world where anybody with a good idea can go to market, connect with customers. Historically, I think there's been a huge barriers to entry in terms of advertising. You had to have a large budget to be able to advertise certain channels or be able to hire decent agencies. And so if we can use AI to automate that and have anybody with a good product or good idea be able to connect with their customers, that means a world with more products, more interesting products, a more vibrant world with faster growth in productivity and faster growth in these human experiences and a flourishing of creativity. And so that's really been the motivating factor. It's the idea of democratizing growth. It's really kind of the mission that our team is aligned around. It continues to be the motivating factor for us.
Well, that's awesome. It sounds like you built a great platform that's allowing people to do that. So thanks again for being here, Hikari. Thanks to all of you guys for listening. If you thought this was valuable, please leave a review for the show. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Digital Dominance Podcast. This show is brought to you by FroBro.com. If you are a B2B service provider and you're ready to transform your website into a high-converting, lead-generating sales tool, go to FroBro.com/revive to learn more.